This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. Shalom Aleichem. We continue in the Iggeres HaGra. The Gra was talking about that there are many people who read Musar Svarim, but they're not really moved. It doesn't make a significant change in their personality, and that's because there are two reasons for that. Number one, many just read Sifrei Musar just for the sake of knowing the information, without it having a emotional experience learning the Musar. Many people read Sifrei Musar just for knowledge, and not in a very engaged and enthused manner. And the second reason is because they're affected by the influences of the outside world. The Gra says that it's analogous to planting on stone. Same way, if you plant on stone, the planting will be completely ineffective. So if one sends words of Musar onto a heart of stone, it does not enter at all. And therefore what's needed is, you have to plant on soft terrain. And how does one have soft terrain? One's heart has to be broken. However that's accomplished, either a person's sensitive or somebody experiences Yisurin, and that was one of the reasons why the Gra felt that children should be reprimanded very sternly. Again, that was Lizmanoi for his time. Says the Gra, V'gam es chasanai ani mazhir b'chol zeh. I also warn and adjure that my son-in-law be careful in all this. Sheyikra l'fneim kanal, he should read this before the kids. Now again, this is all for people of the Gra's level. As we mentioned, the Stipler said that many of the things written in the Iggeres HaGra are for very big tzaddikim on the madrega of the Gra. That's how the Stipler explained the Gra's shita of giving a chaymesh. However, in our generation, it's hard to give any advice to a son-in-law. In fact, Rav Miller says, the only thing you could give your son-in-law is money and kavod. That's the only thing you could give a son-in-law. No, there's no advice, no suggestions. It's almost, that's the only thing you can give anybody these days. But certainly an in-law, Rav Miller, who was not a one to look for shortcuts, his best advice for dealing with in-law children is the only thing you could give them is money and kavod. Anyway, well, how times have changed, because the Gra says he warns his son-in-law that he should read this before the children, V'sheyehei limudai l'shem shamayim, and that he should be careful to learn l'shem shamayim, which according to the Nefesh HaChaim, l'shem shamayim means to learn for the sake of the Torah. It does not mean to learn to get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to learn for the sake of learning. In Rav Groucher's edition of the Iggeres HaGra, he brings that the Stipler said that once the Stipler turned 60, he began to, his memory was not as strong as it once was. But the Stipler says, the Chazon Ish, his memory never faded until his last moment, and the Stipler attributes it to the fact that the Chazon Ish always learned Lishma. Now, Ulaman Hashem yichanech atzmei bazeh, for the sake of God, he should train himself to do this. Meaning, it's not easy to learn Lishma. There are always ulterior motives in learning Lishma, and therefore you have to train yourself to divert and remove from your mind the ulterior motives. V'al yashgiach laha'imrim ki hanar ein sarch lezeh. Don't pay attention to those who say that a child doesn't need this. Chas v'shalom. Some people say children, they just need cartoons and bubble gum and Fruity Pebbles. And then when they wake up, no. Children also need Musar. Adarabba, Chanoich Lenar, just the opposite. You need to train the youth from their young age. Klip, now the Gra gives a mashal over here. Klipas ha'ego is yeroika noicha lahaser. The shell of a nut, before it ripens, is easy to remove. When something is soft, when something's developing, it's easy to change it. However, once the nut ripens, the shell, the peel hardens, and it's much harder to remove. The Ikar HaKol, and this is the foundational principle of everything. That things, the more things develop a certain way, the harder it is to change. It's much easier to change something when it's developing. Ki bezeh zoiche el HaKol. In other words, the Ikar HaKol, refers to learning l'shem shamayim. Ki bezeh zoiche el HaKol. By learning l'shem shamayim, one is zoiche to everything. K'may she'amar Chazal, like Chazal say, Rav Meir Oimer. Rav Meir says, by the way, I happen to like the Tana Rav Meir, if you didn't know that. Rav Meir Oimer, Kol ha'osek b'Torah l'shma, anyone who learns Torah for its own sake, zoiche l'dvarim harbe, is zoiche to many things. V'loi oid, ela shekol ha'olam kuloi eina kedai lai. The whole world is not worthy of such a person. Okay, so that is, these are the recommendations of the Gra. And now the Gra begins a new subject, and when we talk about the concept of learning Lishma, there's actually a very big machlokes Rishonim. Rashi, Tosfos and Tainis, Tosfos and Psachim, because the Gemara, there's a major stira, of course, in Shas. The Gemara says, Oilam yasek adam tar mitzvahs Lishma, La'olam yasek adam tar mitzvahs shaloi Lishma, shemitach shaloi Lishma ba Lishma. The Gemara says, coming from shaloi Lishma will bring you to Lishma. Elsewhere, the Gemara says that anyone who learns Torah shaloi Lishma, he should have, he's better off if his mother's placenta would have covered him over and he was never born. So that's the question. Is it better to learn Lishma? Is learning Shaloi Lishma acceptable? Is it not acceptable? Should you do it and it will come to Lishma? Or is it better that you're not created? So the Rishonim give basically three levels of Lishma and Shaloi Lishma. The lowest level of Shaloi Lishma is you learn Lekanter, meaning you just want to give the Rebbe a hard time. So you learn some information, Geshmaka Tosfos, to slug someone up. In other words, you have a guy, he hangs out by Rabbi Yashiv, Reb Chaim Kanievsky. Why? Because as soon as his rabbi gives a psak, he's going to say, you're a rabbi, Reb Chaim Kanievsky says something else. So the guy doesn't really care what Reb Chaim Kanievsky says, he just wants the rabbi to be wrong. There are a lot of people like that. Then, another type of Shaloi Lishma is, let's say a guy is learning for Olam Haba. He's learning Torah. Why? He's tired, he's hungry, but you think that's what he wants to do? It's 9 p.m. It's a long day of work. The guy wants to learn out. He knows it's worth it for Olam Haba. That's also Shaloi Lishma. Or then you have some people, they learn Shaloi Lishma, they want to be called, they want to be a rabbi. They need a job. Or they want kavod. Or they want people to think they're knowledgeable. So there are basically three kinds of Shaloi Lishma. There's learning to fight, that's the lowest level. There's learning for kavod, that's the second lowest level. And there's learning for Olam Haba, which is a higher level. And then there's learning totally Lishma. Obviously, the highest level of Lishma is to learn for the sake of the learning itself, not for ulterior motive. Everybody agrees to learn Lekanter, that's better off not doing it. That's the lowest level of Shaloi Lishma. That level of Shaloi Lishma, you're learning to fight with people. So maybe it's better. That the Gemara says it becomes a Sam HaMaves. The Torah actually will harm your personality. The Torah that you learn will actually bring you down. So somebody who learns for that motive, that's difficult. That's a low madrega. That will cause spiritual harm to a person. But then the middle level of, let's say you learn for Olam Haba. That everybody agrees, if you learn for Olam Haba, we say, Shemitach Shaloi Lishma Ba Lishma. So that you for sure should do. And I heard from Rav Victor Miller, Halavai you should learn for Olam Haba. That's in our generation, you could be the Gadol Hadar if you're learning for Olam Haba. The machlokes in the Rishonim is, if let's say somebody's learning for kavod, do we say it will become a Sam HaMaves? Or do we say, even regarding that learning, mitach shaloi lishma ba lishma? There are enough shittos in the Rishonim that if you learn to be a Rabbi, or to learn for kavod, when we say mitach shaloi lishma ba lishma, after all, the Gemara says, ha'omer sela zu l'tzedakah ba'avor sheyichya b'ni. If somebody says, I want to give money to tzedakah because I want to have nachas for my children, I want my kid to have refuah shalema, harei zeh tzaddik amar. So, by the same token, if somebody learns for kavod, they want to get a good aliyah on Shabbos. Somebody learns because they want people to think they're a tzaddik. That's enough. That's a good kind of shaloi lishma that will say shamitoich shaloi lishma bal lishma. Be'ezus Hashem, tomorrow we'll start the next subject in Iggeres HaGra regarding midos v'darach eretz. Thanks everyone for joining. Tonight 9:15 Yevamos Daf Lamed Vav Amud Aleph. Tomorrow at 12 p.m. there is a special HaGra the Pirkei Shir on Sefer Shemos. Everybody is cordially invited. But today the website was updated, so you could check the website for all upcoming events on the news section. Everybody feel good. Have a great day. Kol tov.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, sure. Sorry.
Is it
Sure.
possible?
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.